Well, welcome back to another DT Koi Live. Hope everyone is having a great weekend so far because the weather is absolutely brilliant here today. And obviously, I've had to shut curtains a bit so that obviously the sunlight doesn't shine too much on me. But it'll spoil the camera. I'm not too bothered. Sun shining on me, but hey. But yeah, hope everyone's had a great weekend. I'm hoping a few guests come on, and if you want to join us as a guest, then there's a blue banner in the chat. I'm gonna go like that then. In the comment section on the blue banner, just tap that link, and then it'll bring you backstage, and then I'll bring you on because it's meant to be. Rich is meant to be coming on, whether he gets home or not on time, which is Shrewsbury Koi. And also there should be another one or another two guests meant to come on. But we'll see what happens because it's one of them. Say they can, say they can't. What can you do? But yeah. Evening Aaron from Umbercoy. I will give you a shout out soon. So then we can get when we get a few more in. So we've got obviously hi all from you. Aaron Umbercoy. If you haven't already checked him out, please go check him out. I shall put the link in soon to his channel. It's a father and son channel, brilliant channel. They've got 2 full videos out now, and honestly, go check him out. Obviously, after the live is finished. And then Farmer Koi, good evening, Koisters. Hope you all had a good day. Well, I've had a good day, mate, and I hope you have as well. Especially the sunshine we've had here in Yorkshire. It's been absolutely stunning up here. And then obviously you two talking, and then Nicola Wallace, I think. Hello, Dave. Hello. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. Evening, Simon. Well, a few tips for, because I've seen a lot more people on a few Facebook forums that I'm on and that. I've seen a few more people trying to, hang on, I'm going to have to have a quick brew. I've seen quite a few new koi keepers joining forums and that, and just thought I'd touch a little bit on about it. And hopefully touch about it, and hopefully then they can pick it up from my lives or a few other videos and stuff. And then tips to think about joining a koi club near you, because the Yorkshire Koi Society, I think looking at it, I think there's 32 koi clubs in the UK and maybe a few more now. I'm not 100%. It's one of them where obviously there's more koi clubs coming as the more people getting into it. And here we go. I don't think anybody knows this guy anyway, because it's just popped up out of nowhere. But I suppose we better bring him on. It never comes on anyway. But yeah, I'll bring him on. How we doing? Well, nobody knows who you are, do they?
No.
How we doing, Dave?
Well, we're doing well, mate. Yeah. Few issues with the quarantine, which we go into later on, mate. But all's good now. How's yours?
I haven't been so bad. I've done well. To be fair, like I said to you earlier today, I normally clean mine once a week, and then obviously as I start feeding a bit more, then I up the cleaning to counter the feeding at the same time, if that makes sense. But unfortunately, my necks have started overflowing, so I lost about 20% of water. But end of the day, it just means a little bit of a bigger clean, which gives them a bit more of a cycle of water. So really, it's a win-win. But I wouldn't recommend your filter to overflow to do that. I'll put that out. I don't recommend that. Just sometimes it happens. And then look, my other half, before she does something else. Hello, darling. I just have to, she does it. That right. That's the other bit. If you haven't already known, the DT stands for Dave and Tony, and she's the other part of the DT, but she never comes on camera, other than once where she absolutely bollocked me. But you got to see the funny side in things. But yeah,
Lynn never wants to go on there either, mate. She's camera shy, but she's into a fish.
And then a few new tips for koi keepers, because obviously on a few Facebook forums, I've seen a few more people getting into it. And like I just said before you came on, think about joining a koi club near you. And it's just that I'm looking down because I've got it all on notes. Just to make it easier for me. And like join your local koi club near you if you've got one. Or if you didn't want to do that, then have a look at on the forums, have a look at other people's koi ponds, like via on YouTube, or if you can reach out to them. So then it gives you more of an idea of what you're going to be able to, like in your filtration wise, which we spoke about on the last live, I believe, or 2 lives ago with Vince, or, how big you want to build your pond, or their experiences like we have on YouTube and that. What else is there? And about water changes. Well, on that subject, how many times with how many tanks you've got, do you do water changes all the time, or do you do trickle in, trickle out system?
No, I do water changes, Dave. I haven't got trickle in, trickle out, but I manage it quite well by regular. When I say regular, when I check the water and I find any rise in ammonia or nitrite or anything, then I'll do a water change. But generally, when I clean the filters, it automatically does a water change anyway. So at least 10%, because I flushed the Easy Pods twice, and that's twice a week this time of year, once in the winter, and three in the when I'm really feeding heavy, because as you know, my main pond's heated.
Well, speaking of sort of heated, that's why we're going to. I won't go into it. Yours is the ex-heated pond guys here as well.
Hey, hi Rick, how you doing?
I feel like I'm coming in on a negative there.
Yeah, no, never a negative. No, we're just talking about water changes and stuff, because it was, like I says to you, as you were coming home, a few tips on you koi keepers coming into it, and we just got on to the water changes, how often Dave changes his, and then he run about heated, and then I just went, well, you're heated as well, aren't you? So
water changes I probably do once every couple of weeks. But nothing major, probably 10%. That's for my own peace of mind more than anything. The heated side of things, the heater I don't think has clicked on for I don't know how long. I don't heat the pond to a tropical temperature like maybe some do. It's just a case of stabilizing it through the very cold winter months. That's what I did it for. I think my heater's set at 15.
We're above that now, so hopefully it will stay there.
I think it's 18 today. The pond.
Yeah, mine's on an air source heat pump, as you know. How are you getting on with your inline one, Rich? Is that going well? Because I'm up in mine a degree now and again. Every other week I'll up it a degree. It's running at about 18 at the moment.
Yeah, I checked the temperature of the pond today. I think it's just over 18 degrees, something like that. But I've got south-facing gardens, so the sun's, pretty much on it in the afternoon. I don't know what the rest of the country's doing, but Shrewsbury being the tropical centre of the world has been, it's been like the Bahamas today.
You're lucky.
It's been really good. But Yeah, the inline heater's done what I wanted it to do, which was just to stabilise temperatures during the very cold temperatures. Nothing more. It wasn't about trying to do set it at 24 degrees or 25 degrees, which my tropical tank's at. And it was just about trying to maintain a stable temperature for the fish, so there wasn't peaks and troughs.
Like we spoke about before. The thing that you says that you only do a 10% water change every other week.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Is that because you want it? What's the reasons behind that? Why only doing it every 2 weeks?
Just simply because when I do the water test, it doesn't tell me there's any reason not to do it. You know, I'll do my water test weekly, which are only a simple the EA.
What the NT Labs sort of ones?
Yeah. I'll do that weekly. But if there's something that shouts at me, then I think, oh, you know what, I better do something about it. But you know, it's pretty stable, so I don't see any reason why I should be taking water out and putting it in.
Well, there's something to be said, to be honest with you, Rich, something to be said about letting your water mature. I mean, a lot of the really experienced koi keepers will let your water mature because it's obviously, you don't want to be adding coppers and heavy metals from the tap. I know you can use varying sort of carbons from Andy Finch to negate the coppers and heavy metals, but it's best to have your mature water in there. And evening, Tony, how's that Kaku?
But our 4-step.
Yeah.
Should me and Rich just drop down? 4-step it. Oh my God. You two are never going to give up with that, are you?
I just gave it a nice little feed in before coming in tonight, and I thought I might pop on here.
Well, I'll give you that question as well then, Tony. How many times do you change your water in your ponds? Because obviously you've got a few, like even if they are your trop tanks, how often do you change them?
Well, I'm going to say I do and I don't, but I don't do big water changes. I trickle in and trickle out.
Yes,
and so the biggest water changes happen when I drop the Nexus, really. So I might drop the Nexus twice on a clean, and that drops the pond by 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. And I usually try and do it in the late afternoon because by the next morning the trickle's topped it up.
Yeah.
I never put a lot of water in it at a high rate, just trickle in.
I'm just going to wonder, is somebody ringing a doorbell?
No, that's the clock behind me.
I just wondered what it was. I thought, is someone ringing a doorbell? Rich is looking. I'm looking and thinking, it's not my end.
Rich got a cloverleaf inline heater, haven't you, Rich? Is that on your grow on?
No, that's on my main pond. That is.
That's on your main pond. Okay. I fitted a 2 kilowatt one on the grow on quarantine. Call it what you like, Tosai tank. And I've been struggling to know whether it's working or not, to be honest. It's got a little red light that comes on when it is active, but it's not actually on very much. But I have to say, yesterday it built up to 19 degrees C, and usually overnight it goes back down to about 15 because of the cold temperatures at night. But this morning it was still, and it was quite chilly out, but it was still at 19, which amazed me. So maybe it is working.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think the light is an indicator for the low flow pressure indicator. That's what it says on the instructions. I don't think it necessarily says that the red light comes on when it's heating.
All right, low flow.
Yeah, those cloverleaf inlines, the thermostat system on those isn't the best, to be honest. I used one before I changed to the air source heat pump, and you can put a separate temperature sensor in.
Oh, Mr. Claus, don't walk across a keyboard.
You've already had this once this week, and now you're doing it again.
He's a bloody nuisance, he is.
Umbercoy says, "Hi, Rocket. How are them fish doing? Fish from Adam Bayer doing?"
They're doing fine, mate. I had a bit of problem with the obviously new pond syndrome. The ammonia went right up. So I rang Rick at New Forest Koi, and he advised me on several ways to lower it. One using zeolite, and the other one was to take some filter media out of one of my easy pods, put it in a bag on the outflow. I checked the water today, and it's coming down nicely now. But I've also added some Evolution Aqua gel into the actual pressure filter as well. So they're doing fine. Yeah, they're feeding. They're doing well.
And that was something similar what you were going to do, Rich, wasn't it? With to get your media a little bit more mature, you were going to stick it in the ponds. Maybe that's an idea for you before you start, unless you've already done it, which I think you haven't.
On the Easy Pod,
yeah,
I've still done nothing with it.
Oh my God!
Come on, get it going.
You know what? I've had 2 or 3 weeks with work, which I can't even begin to explain. It's been intense, and I've got to be honest. The fish,
Guys,
they other than looking at them in the evenings and feeding them and things like that, I've just really. I'm behind the curve. Even watching people's videos, and which I'm always good at and commenting on, who are subscribed to. Even my own videos, they've been crap. They've been really crap. I've got to be.
Well, it might help if you had your phone that way.
Yeah, I know.
Have your phone this way, not that way.
That's where I've been at. The headspaces are just been.
They're not, Richard. They're very good. I'm the king of crap.
Yeah, well, I'm getting that because that. To be honest,
don't agree with that.
It's just been work issues and business issues, but yeah, the fish. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be back on top of it, and I should get this bloody Easy Pod, which has been sitting like an ornament on my patio for 6 weeks, up and running, because I really want to get that going, because the fish that I've got now, which I think are the best fish in the world, and they're growing great. I think it needs an Easy Pod now to sort of enable me to add to the pond. I don't want to chuck fish into it in the system that I've got, because I think it might cause more issues than it's worth.
And that's the point. Like what Gaz just put there, we do water changes to prevent any problems in the first place. Testing water to look for a problem, then start rectifying it seems a little bit silly to me. Whereas on that sort of point, that's like why I do my filters, depending on how much you feed. I normally do it once a week, whether it's summer, winter. But the more heavier I feed, the more that I clean my filters, which then that's what does your water changes, if that makes sense. Because the longer you leave it before you do your filter clean, especially if you're feeding a little bit more, there's more chance of your crap building up in your pressure filters. And then that's when then as soon as you see the problem, it might be a little bit too late. Whereas if you have a good cleaning regime and stay on top of things, then the other things sort of look after themselves a little bit easier, as still as doing your water test, if that makes sense, Rich.
Yeah, so I don't know whether he's taken my comments incorrectly, but I do a filter clean, and I do a water change, but and I do a water change, but ultimately, if you look at the fish, they will always tell you if there's problems. And
yeah, but I think what it means is trying to stay on top of you. Like if you clean your filter every week, but you're on about you did it every 2 weeks, and I think that's what they were meaning. Is you can't rely on your water test because sometimes when you've relied on them, it might be a little bit too late. Whereas if you can already prevent it, then it'll,
Yeah, totally agree. But you get to know your pond, don't you? You get to know your pond, so you know whether you need to be doing it every week or every month, or you get to know where things start to change. So you know how often you need to do a water change or things like that. Some people don't even test the water, they just keep an eye on their fish.
Yeah. It's just like the valid point like that. And that's, like I say, that's why I do it. And then we've got a question from MJH Coy to Tony. How's your fry getting on, Tony?
They're really good. I got them Thursday, and I always worry that first night. I put them in, and I just sort of lay awake all night until the next morning to see that they're still alive. But so once they've got past that first night and my water's been okay. I mean, obviously before I got the fry of water, I've tested it all and checked it all, and I'm afraid for fry, you need naught on everything really. But what have I had them now? 2 days, and there's definite growth, and quite a few of them, you can even see the patterns forming. There seems to be a good old mix. Some of them are just plain yellow, but some of the darker ones, you can see light and dark patches on them. So it's great. They're good. You can see when they're feeding because their digestive tract fills up with brine shrimps, which are sort of a pinky colour going through there, and then out they come the usual way. And they're really doing well. And in actual fact, I've not lost one yet. And there's a 1,000 fry there. Split
touching wood, Tony. Touching this wood.
Yeah.
I'm touching wood here, Bo.
It's so easy to lose fry. And I do a daily water change on them. Every morning they have a water change.
And then, one question that I've got, which I'll put to each of you. What got you into the koi? What got you into koi keeping? And I'll start off with Rocket Boy because I was trying to think of something else, but I'll just go with that first.
Right. Well, I've always been an angler ever since I was 7 years old, and I had ponds. The way you start off, small hole in the ground, either a preform one. Mine was a liner, and didn't know anything about filtration. So I studied it, asked a few people, and got into it properly then, and it's progressed from then on. And now I'm up to 4 ponds: the IBC, the Grow On, the main pond, Lynn's little Shabunking pond, and the Quarantine, and they're all doing well. But yeah, over 30 years now I've had ponds.
And if
not doing too bad.
I'll put the same question to everyone that is watching. What got you into the koi keeping side of things? Whether you had, goldfish and that before or whatever, what got you a lot into it? So then I'll go down to Tony. What got you into koi keeping then?
The very short answer would be my wife. And she hates them, but
Is that so much back at your wife? I don't know, and that's
well. The thing is, it must be 34 or 35 years ago now. In our old property, my wife wanted a goldfish puddle, and instead of building a goldfish puddle, I kept digging And my first pond, it wasn't massive. It was about 1,500 gallons, but I put quite a few goldfish in, and away they went. It just had a little box filter on it, and they started dying, and I didn't know nothing about it really. I had new pond syndrome with a pond full of goldfish, and I was pulling my hair out. I haven't got any pull out now, but I was pulling. I pulled my hair out, wondering why this was happening, and so they were dying. Lots of them were poorly, and somebody put me on to a guy that had a koi business. He sold koi from his back garden, and he was a bit of a koi doctor. And I paid him 25 quid to come and have a look at my pond. And anyway, he got all these goldfish out, and he said, they're no good. They're not going to survive. So he euthanized them. And that was that. Then he stuck a load of stuff in my pond. He said, go and boil a kettle. And I went and boiled a kettle, and he put this purple stuff in my pond, which back then I had no idea what it was. Of course, it was PP. So he put a really strong dose of PP in my pond, and he then said, in a week's time, he said, I'll bring you a proper fish. He said, you don't want to mess about with these goldfish. He said, I'll bring you a proper fish. And he did. He brought a fish, and it must have been probably about 40 cm. And he stuck it in there. And he said, in a week's time, I'll bring you another one. So it started costing me a lot of money back then. But he slowly matured my pond for me. And I ended up with a pond of koi instead of what my wife wanted, which was a pond of goldfish. And that's what got me into it.
And then the same question to you, Rich. What got you into koi keeping?
I guess the pattern is the same for everyone. You know, we start as kids with a few goldfish at our parents' house, or cold water fish. Then we buy our own house, and we get a tropical tank because we think we're all going to go clever and get tropical fish, which I've still got. Yeah, I think the first pond I had was basically digging a hole in the ground, whacking a liner in, getting a box filter, filling it up with water, and chucking some random fish in, which actually my dad ended up in hospital helping me dig. So, you know, it's quite memorable, that one. But yeah, and you know what, I did that. There's a clock again.
Yeah.
3/4 or half
Right on
past.
time, right on cue.
But yeah, you know what, I had the pond, and as basic as it was totally wrong. I built it under a hedge. I built it under a raised mound, so when it rained, the water drained under the liner. Everything was wrong. But you know what? I never looked at testing fish or anything like that. I had various fish in there, miracarp, orphs. I just some kind of sturgeon in there, and some other bits and pieces. And they're, you know, even in the winter, it used to freeze over about an inch thick. But anyway, I digress. A couple of house moves after where I am now, I thought, you know what, I'd like to have a crack at koi. And that's what I'm doing now. And again,
Well,
I'm a novice.
it's
I'm a
looking
beginner,
well, though.
learning all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
you're
it's about
looking well there, Rich. It's looking
Yeah,
well,
looks
mate.
good.
Pardon?
Your pond's looking all right, mate. It's looking well.
You know what? I think it's all right. The water's good. The fish appear to be good. There's issues that every pond keeper probably has. I had fluke a month ago or something like that, which I thought the world was coming to an end when I found out I had fluke. But actually, in normal koi terms, it's quite normal, isn't it? But I thought, oh my God, it's like the world had ended. And the filtration system I got, which is quite basic, in terms of what other people have got at the moment, it does a really good job for me. So, you can only judge it by the fish, can't you? And the fish are growing. They appear to be healthy. So, I'm happy with what I've got. I never declared to be an expert, or I'm on here tonight. Dave has asked if I'll come on, and I've no problem doing that. And I've always said my YouTube channel is all about trying to put some simplicity to starting up a pond, because it is a scary thing when you watch some of these channels.
Well, this is a thing like we did. Why I like you on the show is if, say, like we did last time when me and Phil are on about a PP dip or salt bath or this and that, and we're going on about do this, do that, and then you just go, hang on a minute, what?
Exactly.
I don't know what you're on about. So then that allows us then to go back a little bit and go, right, well, this is for that, this is for that, and it makes it a wider audience. So maybe I go on about something and then somebody else does, and you're like, so it allows us to actually get to a wider audience and helps you, which is why I like you on the show, because it's helping you as much as it's helping everyone else.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you'll go to, if you're thinking, I'm going to get a pond, you'll go to a garden centre 9 times out of 10, not a koi dealer. So you'll go to a garden centre, and 9 times out of 10, the people who are selling you a filtration system ain't got a clue what they're selling, or the capacity that you need it to filtrate to. I was a victim of that, probably 1,000 quid lighter, you're fine.
I'll tell you something. I wish there was YouTube 34 years ago. Honestly, I've been into it a lot of years and made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of those mistakes could have been avoided if YouTube was around. I mean, 34 years ago, there was nothing but books or somebody else you knew that had a pond. Nothing else, really. And so you had to sort of learn the hard way, really. And YouTube, I think, I'll be honest, I've been keeping koi for probably 32, well, more than that, 34 years. And I'm learning a lot more since the internet and YouTube came around than I ever knew before.
I'd agree with that, Tony.
Is if you haven't already, go and check out Umber Koi. It's a small channel at the minute. If we can get him a few extra subscribers, pardon me, that'd be brilliantly appreciated. It's father and son. They've got a few short videos and 2 full videos with a lot more to come. So, guys, please go and check out the channel, and the link is obviously in the comments.
Yeah, his son Leo's got one as well, Dave, and he's more into bird watching. But I subscribed to him the other night, and cracking little channel. He'll grow. He'll definitely grow. And what you were saying, Tone, I've been keeping koi the same amount of time roughly as you have, and yeah, I wish YouTube would have been around when I first started. The misinformation you got from garden centres is, it's frightening, really. can ruin your enjoyment of the hobby and cause a lot of people to quit.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
But at the same time, Dave, does YouTube almost scare some people as well? Because there's,
I think it can, particularly when it goes into the real in-depth things such as PP, how to use it, scrapes, etc. Using a microscope even can scare some people off. You know,
some of the stuff. I think the more experienced people take for granted. You know, it's, you know, you say about scrapes and microscopes. That was something that was quite new to me up until a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. But actually, you think, my God, what am I doing? How do I scrape it? What am I looking for? And, you know, the more experienced person, which would probably put it on YouTube and say, I've done a scrape, I found this. It's that level of detail, how to scrape.
It can be a difficult thing. I can remember when I got my microscope, still got the same one. I want to change it, actually. I want one of these ones with a electronic screen because my eyes aren't good looking through the bloody what's the names. I have to take glasses. Anyway, what I was going to say was I done scrapes again before YouTube was around, and all you could go by was pictures in books, really, of the parasites. And I used to go all over these slides, and don't get me wrong, a good thing, I couldn't find anything. But equally, I didn't know what I was looking for either half the time. And there's all these strands of whatever going through the mucus and all that sort of thing. I mean, I think we've all been idiots thinking that, you got a bit of trick and it's an air bubble. And you have to realise most of the time, if you have got a parasite, it's going to move. So ignore anything that's not moving. It's going to move. But it can be difficult at first to get used to it. And to be honest, the first time I saw, and I think the first time I saw a parasite, it was a fluke. And instead of being sort of angry about it, I was quite excited. I'd actually found something. There it is, a fluke. So, and then you learn, you know, as you go on. But you look at these slides, and if you can't find anything on them, you think, I must be doing something wrong. It's a good thing is you probably haven't got anything on them.
I suppose that's one of the good things, is the good side of YouTube is with what where you can see stuff moving on the slides and people are explaining what you can see on a slide of what this is, what that is. And I suppose that side of it, it is daunting for people, but if you can know what sort of you're looking for on a scrape, I suppose it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then speaking of people, when I'm catching him off guard, we've got Andy here and he doesn't know what he's doing, look. I don't think he even... you didn't realise you were on then, did you?
I gotta keep my ears open when I'm just dump me in. How's everybody?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Superb. Everybody getting through the springy bit all right now?
Yeah.
Well, now that I've managed to get rid of the flukes and trick, my fish seem to have livened up quite a heck of a lot, and I'm wanting to feed a heck of a lot more now. So I seem to have got on the other side of the flukes and trick. Touch a bit of wood. You never know what's around the corner, do you? But hopefully it's on the road to summer, should we say.
Yeah, I've been watching people's videos of people having parasite problems and what do they call them? What does somebody call them? Winter parasite, winter something. I don't know. So yeah, so me, I've just got. I'm just coming to the side of Costia, Did my 30-second treatment last week. Moving into this week, fluke. I've had a couple of flashing around. Pulled up chagging up today. Found one fluke. So I've not acted yet. So I only found one fluke. Pulled another one out. Didn't find anything. So keep an eye on stuff. But I've just been out just now, and yeah, flashing around a little bit. So there's something else in there that needs dealing with. So that'll be another bloody move. So.
Have you added anything to the pond, Andy, or is it just seasonal?
No, I think it's just seasonal, mate. I think they're coming out of winter now with what they went in with, and now it's all woken up and starting to give me problems. But no, I've added nothing. And to be honest, I'm personally, this is only personally, I'm trying to stay clear of these growing shows at the moment because I don't want to add anything to my pond if I can help it this year. And then again, I said that last year, and ended up with that big shower. You know what it's like.
You can never ever say, my pond. This is one thing. You can never say pond's finished. Can you never say I'm not getting another fish this season?
I know. I had space. So I thought. But, anyway.
Have any of you ever said that other than me and Andy, where you said you're not adding another fish to, obviously, if you've got one pond or multiple ponds, and you still go out and buy a fish that season anyway?
Yeah.
Well,
so no, I did nothing.
Look at what happened to me at Adam Byer. I won that raffle and 170 quid's worth of fish. Well, where are you going to put them? Obviously, quarantine set up.
I mean, I've got space in my pond for another. I could put at least another 2 or 3 in mine, I reckon. But you never say never, do you? If the right one comes along, they would say, "Well, so what's your favourite fish then? What are you going to get next?" I don't know. It depends where I go, what I see, and I go, "Oh, I like that." You know, I kind of don't have a favourite fish, and I don't say dislike fish. I just pick fish because I just like the colour of them and I like how they look, and you know, go off that. That's me basically.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's a sort of different question, Dave. If you were going out to get a fish yourself, I think we touched on it last week, but if we didn't, or if we did, then we'll just go through it again. What would you, out the top 3 bits, what would you, if you're going for any koi, what sort of your top 3 bits will you look for in a koi for you to then bring it to put it in your own pond?
Well, obviously, as I said, I look for body shape, you know, the body, whether it's got a big head or whether it's pinched, skin luster, and the last thing is pattern, really. As long as the pattern is okay and I'm happy with it, that's all that really matters. I think.
The other way round.
Go on in.
Yeah, well, on the other, the fish has got to look pretty first, and then I'll look at the body and everything else. There's no way I would buy a nice-bodied fish and it was ugly.
Yeah, kind of an ugly fish, can you? I'll have the ugly one, please.
But the thing is, you know, I mean,
talk among yourselves. 2 minutes. I'm just going to sort something out.
Yeah,
2 minutes. If you carry on talking, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. As I was saying, you know, obviously you look at the fish like we did down at Rick's down at New Forest, and you think, Christ, that's a lovely fish. You are drawn to the pattern, obviously, but then I look at the body shape, style, skin luster, and everything, and if the pattern fits in and all those things come together, then I'll buy it. How about you guys?
First thing I want to know is where it's come from. You know, where's the fish come from? And I need history basically on the fish. That's the first thing I look for is where it's come from, what the history is of it. I mean, if it's a little fish, then you know, if you're going to grow a fish, then it's not so bad. But if you've got a decent sized established fish, I want to know the history all about that fish first and where it's come from and what it's done, and you know who's grown it, how many times it's changed hands, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I mainly look for I just go off if I like the look of fish. I've no favourites. That's a nice fish. Keep an eye on it for a little while. I can't impulse buy. I find it really difficult to impulse buy. So I have to take ages, and I've lost a number of fish. You know, and they say you snooze, you lose. Yeah, I've lost a couple of times because I've looked and I've thought, do I get that? Do I spend? I like to say some of these fish, these established fish, aren't cheap, are they? You know, we're not talking cheap. We're talking hundreds of pounds for these things. So I can't impulse buy. I can't just go, yeah, there you go. There's a couple $100. I love that. I can't do that. I have to have a look, go away, come and look again. Listen to you guys on your videos, listen about your fish, have a look at your fish. There's one that I haven't got, but I might be able to get. Have another look, come back again, watch your videos again. So no, I can't impulse buy at all. It takes me ages to get a fucking fish.
But there again, though, Andy, I only buy from a few suppliers. New Forest Koi, and I'm sure Tone will agree with me there. He's got some cracking fish. I'll buy from Adam Buyer and World of Water at Bracknell, because Dan visits Japan and he stocks Japanese fish, you know. If I were going to buy a big fish, I would agree with you. I'd want to know where it came from, the history, who's had it, and all the rest of it. But yeah, I'd agree with that.
I'll tell you, I bought many years ago now, I bought an Asagi, and I don't know how old my pond was then. The pond I got now, my pond is 17 years old now, and soon after I completed it, it's quite a decent size. It's a bit shy of 5,000 gallons, and I went to a dealer and I saw the most magnificent Asagi. It was beautiful even scales, and the fins were just stood out because they were just white fins against this body of this, and it was quite a big fish, and I paid 1,200 quid for it, and my bad pond keeping skills at the time, I'm afraid it lived 18 months. Now, I lost a 1,200 quid fish in 18 months. No fault of the dealer at all. Let's face it, I'd had it 18 months. It was me. So I vowed from that point on I'd never buy a big fish. And that's when I started raising fry. And I started buying fry from New Forest Koi. And funny enough, I got an Asagi out of my pond today. It's not the most brilliant Asagi, but that Asagi is 8 years old and it is 60 cm, and it was one of those fry from New Forest Koi.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what you can do with small fish. Anyway, I do buy small fish. I bought some fantastic fish from New Forest Koi, and the thing is, you already know their history because they were bred by New Forest Koi.
Yeah. Well, and the Mark Gardner line, of course.
And the Mark Gardner line as well, those parent fish. But I have to say, recently, I'm guilty of buying 2 fish from World of, maybe this is blasphemy, World of Slaughter, we used to call it. But anyway, World of Water, they've probably got better over the years. But I just went there for some dry goods because I was desperate. And of course, you have a look round the vats, don't you? And I saw these 2 little fish that I really, really liked. But I wouldn't impulse buy. I went back there 3 weeks later to see if they were still there and still healthy. And this particular branch, they were keeping the stuff good. It was all looking good. And those 2 fish was there, so I did buy them. And they're in my quarantine tank now. So I only buy small fish.
Like that Tom says, YouTube scared me, this chemical, that chemical. But from my point of view on it is, I try and show you certain bits of what I use. You know, I know you said this chemical, that chemical. Do you mean it as in as like a clay, like Fock? or not this ain't one of Clay, but a Coinmaster Advantage or Mediclair. There's many others. Are you meaning that, or are you meaning like the CT, the PP, fluke treatments, and this and that? Because personally, I just try and show people what I do and the way things go and all that lot. And it might scare people, but I hope it doesn't. I'm just showing you that, you know, so if you get trick or flukes or whatever, you know, rather than trying to search it all, there's people on YouTube where you can just type in flukes or how can I personally get rid of flukes, and there's videos there to help people out.
I think with YouTube, sorry, Dave, I think with YouTube, I think with the comment there, YouTube scared me, this chemical, that chemical. What, and again, you know, we've all got these channels, we're all sort of doing and putting content out, is the whole thing about YouTube is that people can watch and learn from potentially our mistakes, or learn from what we've done and have successes with. That's how I've always sort of based my channel. That's why one of my logos is every day's a day. You know, you can't knock it till you've tried it, because that's what I base my whole channel on. You know, if somebody suggests something and I go, yeah, but is that going to work? Can't knock it till I've tried it. Or if somebody, you know, I look at it at maybe doing something different, and all of a sudden I try something and it worked, you know, I've got a good bit of a school day going on there. So, you know, I think YouTube is, sometimes it can be a little bit misleading, but not often. I think the thing with YouTube is that I personally always try to make sure that my viewers can learn from what I've done and maybe not make the mistakes that I made in the past. And that's why I put these videos out, so that I can sort of say, look, you know, I've done this and it worked. I've done this and it didn't work. And that has just saved you 30 quid on whatever the product was that I've tried and it didn't work. So don't spend on this, spend on that, because as you can see, this worked. And that's what I've always tried to base my channel on, trying to educate myself as well as help people out there who, you know, who are new to the you know, I think Tony was saying earlier on about, you know, when he was brand new and didn't really have an idea what he was doing with his palm, but you kind of learn as you go along. And I think, like, it's like Dave, again, Tony said earlier on, if YouTube had been around years ago, you know, you could have learned so much quicker from other people's experiences, like our channels. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, it's like your Sky Pond, and isn't it? You know, that guy told you about using what do you call it? A Venturi, yeah. And you tried it out and it didn't work, did it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I like the pond vac. That's what I'd be doing all the time, I think. I don't fancy the sucking the air out. Like, as you
yeah,
do,
you know
Andy.
what I mean? It's there's just so many things that I try to put on to go, look, if you're trying to do this, then don't try that and that, because that didn't work, as you've just seen. But do this, because this does work. And then, you know, it's just, I think it's a brilliant platform for people to learn and, you know, chuck a little bit of entertainment in as well. And because, you know, koi keeping isn't the most exciting form of hobby that we've got. So, you know, a little bit of that going in. But anyway,
I would disagree with that. It's the best hobby, you know, that I've got on. And I think Mr. Tropical gets the nail on the head with you. Andy wants an oatcake coin next.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the same question goes to you, Rick, because I were gone, so I don't know if he answered it or not. Is I obviously my kids are at home and they just come downstairs. But anyway, besides the point, did you answer what would you look for if you were buying a new koi? Like, is it your colour? Is it the body? Did you answer that or not?
I did answer.
We had a detailed chat about that, Dave, that you missed. It was really good. You should have heard it.
But I'm sorry, but, you know, I just had to do a few things. It's what my life's about. It's not always going to plan.
No,
in fact, it's one of the best comments I've ever heard on me, and you missed him.
It's purely on my personal preference. You know, whether it's the right pattern or the right size, it's just something I like. But my downfall is probably I haven't got a quarantine tank to put them in for a number of weeks. to ensure that I'm not introducing something that I shouldn't into the pond. And regardless what people say, you know, we all have our favourite koi dealers who we have trust in, and we should have. But there's no science to say that that dealer or the amount of fish that dealer is dealing with at that time has an issue with. You know, they're not. I'm not saying that they're going to deliberately sell you something that is riddled with a problem, but it's a possibility.
Rich,
And then sort of giggle then, but Mr. Tropical said, YouTube scared me too when I saw DT's pajamas. They're not pajamas, they're lounge pants. And because I used to,
it's the same thing.
No,
lounge
they're not.
pants.
Lounge pants,
It's
lounging.
the same thing.
Rich,
I used
Lounge
to wear
pants.
on my old channel. Well, it's the same sort of thing.
If you're doing a live,
do
David,
everything in the
start
Batman
smartening
lounge
up
pants.
and dressing up a bit. You know, shirt and tie and trousers, please.
Shit and tie.
Rich,
I'll just
Just
come
tie
out in the lounge pants and I'll just have a random pajama t-shirt or lounge t-shirt, whatever you want to call it, and I'll just put a tie on front of that just to say, "There you go, Rich. I've done a bit better for you."
To be honest, I've only got a polo shirt on. I've got nothing else on.
I got a Christmas shirt on.
Don't feel wanted that image.
Going home for Christmas. Rich, you mentioned quarantine tank just now. As I say, I've been into keeping a pond over 30 years now. How long do you think I've had a quarantine tank for?
Never had one.
Well, I'm going to say you haven't.
No, I put one in this year.
Never had one. It's nice
Only
to
put
have
it
though.
in.
This quarantine tank.
So
Yeah.
how do you introduce new fish?
How I used
Because
to?
I watched a video this week on YouTube, and I'm way behind on videos because of what's going on at the moment with me. But somebody said that I've watched 4 YouTube videos of people buying new fish, and they did not quarantine or PP them before they entered them into their pond.
Yeah, that'd been
I've
me a
never
long time ago.
It might have been.
I've never quarantined. I've never PP'd.
It was.
I
think it was.
For a long time, I just used to pop them straight in the pond. But to be honest, I don't think I've bought a new fish for nearly 10 years, and I've only just started buying new fish recently, apart from the fry that I used to bring up. Well, the fry, you don't have to quarantine them. They've already, they're weeny things that's been in a tank for several months before you introduce them to the pond anyway. Yeah.
And then this with the next one with Amanda Smith. What do you do with all your fry? I'm a bit behind in comments as well.
Is that aimed at me, or is there anybody else keeping fry?
I think there's you and Dave that have got fry or very young koi, because you know what they're on about. Yeah,
well, I can quickly answer what I do. I have to make a selection, and the first thing that goes is deformities, and they get put to sleep humanely with a bit of what's it called? I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Sedate. So deformities get put to sleep by sedate. Then a bit further on, I have to make another selection, and you try and get all the ones that's going to develop well and again, we're back to pattern, look pretty. And so you end up with a load that you might not want. And I usually separate them. And I mean, I can't kill anything. I really find it difficult to kill the ones with deformities. I'm a real softy. I don't like standing on ants. But I've found in the community that that I live in, by putting it on our village Facebook. There's a few people in the village that got ponds, so they come along and they have some. And there's a lady that lives in a village a few miles from me that has got I'm going to say pond, but it's a lake. She's got a lake. And she just pops all these others into her lake. And some will survive and do well in that lake. Others will probably be predated by herons and the like. But the ones I don't want go off to live their life in a lake.
Well, I suppose that's the best way to be, because then you're passing it on, and then they're going into a lake where they're either going to develop, or maybe something else might happen. But at the end of the day, they're getting the best chance possible somewhere else, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
And Dave, I think yours are the Adam Bayer sort of fry. Well, do you still class them as fry?
Well, they're young tosa, aren't they? Really, they're a bit too big to be caught fry. But what I tend to do is I'll go through them as Tony does, and the ones I think are really good, I'll consider keeping. But I've got a couple of people that are interested in some of my fish anyway, and like Tony, I've got a friend that's got a fishing setup, and he's an ex-koi dealer, and anything I don't want goes into his ex mud pond. Well, it's a big mud pond, to live out their lives happily there. But yeah, I try and pick the ones I want to keep, and there's a few in mind that I'm definitely keeping. One of them is that Asagi that Vince picked out at Adam Byers. That's a stunning fish, that is. It's going to be a real cropper.
I mean, Tom, if you want to come on and we can all have a discussion, and, you know, it's all of us can then like sort of learn from one another and see, you know, if you want to come on just click on the link on the blue banner. I don't know why I'm doing this, because I'm used to doing it in video. The blue banner in the chat. If anybody's got any questions while I'm trying to go through the comments, I think I'm a bit behind. If you put it in capital letters so I can see it, and then I could see it a bit quicker. So yeah, if you want to do that, but like you were just saying, I was just saying, as a new starter watching YouTube, not you personally, but lots of people talking about additives and chemicals. They did frighten me slightly, just slightly. But
I would say, Tom, PP frightens me to death. I try and avoid it at all costs.
But it's trying to show, like you said, Andy, the sort of the good and the bad, so you sort of know what you're sort of getting into the hobby. It's for me personally, 99.9% of the time, everything's really good, and then like you said, then you get the odd parasites and stuff like that you have to deal with. But I suppose it's like any animal, like I think we might have said before, like with cats and dogs, if they get something, you need to go to the vets, or fleas, and you get flea treatment. It's an animal that we all have to look after, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just read the instructions. You know, these chemicals and stuff, we've got some really good instructions nowadays. You've got everybody's videos to watch and see how everybody went on in there. So I think anything you use, you know, just if you read the instructions, read the instructions, and then read the instructions to make sure you've got, you know, you go everything to what it recommends. I mean, for example, I did the formalin and malachite the other day for my Costia, and it recommends on there 5 to 7 days. So from experience, I now do 5 days. I don't wait for the 7th day. I just get it done and back in on the 5th day. So, you know, it's read the instructions, and then off experience and knowledge and, you know, watching other people and see how other people do it. That's how I've kind of based it. That's how I based my whole ponding over the last 25 years. You know, just
the other thing I would say,
a big sponge, you know, expunge and bring information in.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is use the right chemical for the right thing. Don't just bung anything in. You know, find out what the problem is and use the correct chemical for that problem.
Well,
yeah.
that's
And
when
also, sorry, Dave.
that's what I
Also, go on, Dave. Sorry, mate.
that's what I was going to say. Like I see it on forums and that, and what I do personally is I always, if the fish don't seem quite right, like I said in my video, like they were sulking a bit, and I thought, oh, is it temperature? So I left it a little bit. Well, temperature come up, but they're still a little bit sulky. Right. Well, I'll test all my water parameters that I've got, whether you're only testing for the 3 or whether you've got all 6, whichever you can get and use. And right, well, they're all, bang on to what they say, and they're not in the danger levels or exclamation bits. Right, well, I can get rid of that bit. Right, and then the next check, right, I'm going to have to do a scrape. Right, I'm going to have to scrape the koi and find out what I may have on my koi. And then 9 times out of 10, that's when you find that you may have a certain parasite, that then you can go out and buy the correct treatment for that set parasite, which is like what you're on about, Tony. That's the best way to deal with it is do it as a sort of checklist. So start with like your water parameters, and then like your scrapes, and then find out what temperature you are, because in the winter you struggle a little bit more with what you can and can't use. But then it's whether you've got salt in your pond, no salt in your pond, and you've just got to go through each bit, and then work out what works for you and what don't work for you.
Yeah, but I mean, there's another thing when you're adding chemicals. Make sure you know the volume of water you've got in your pond and correctly dose it. Don't just chuck it in. And like you said about salt, Dave, I think it's formalin, if I'm correct. If you've got a high dose of salt in your pond, can be dangerous to your fish. You need to sort of go through all those parameters and checks to make sure you're doing it right. Don't just chuck it in. I've seen people that have seen a few fish flash, so they go to their Maidenhead Aquatics or World of Water or whatever, wherever, buy a treatment. Oh yeah, I'll chuck that in. They don't even know what parasite they've got, which is where knowing how to do a scrape and use a microscope is quite important, really. I think you probably might all agree with that.
The other thing I would say as a novice, and I keep saying a novice, is some fish and most fish generally day to day, there'll be one that will have an itch. So don't go panicking when you see a fish turn on its side and have a bit of a rub. If they're consistently doing it and they're quite erratic with it doing it, or there's a number of them doing it, then you've got a problem. But if there's one doing it, I don't know, once a day or something, then
got an itch.
It might not be an issue. I was the same. I seen one do it, and I thought, oh my god, I've seen this on YouTube, and the pond's riddled. But actually, they do it.
As long as that's when you come to knowing your fish, like you said, and with you knowing your fish, they might just do it after they've been fed. Exactly. And then it might be right. It's knowing your fish, and if you see that flash, then just sit there and observe them a little bit more. Then it might not flash again until the next feed, and then you know that that it's just something maybe that the fish has just had a little bit of dust from it, and it's just irritated it a couple of seconds, and it's just. But before I forget and get past all these comments, we've got a question in for Andy. Andy, where did you get your sky pond idea from? It looks fantastic when your koi come up above the pond water.
To be honest, that sky pond, I used to have a horse-shaped pond in my garden with no window. So we'd sit in the garden just looking at bricks and hearing the fish swim around. So I was looking again, went on YouTube, and I watched a guy fit a large tower. It was literally, it must have been maybe 6 foot high, this thing out of the water. And it was like a large square tower. Really, it was about maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 foot sort of square, about maybe 6 foot tall, and he'd had loads of views for that, and I just watched this thing as he drew the water out with the pond vac, filled it up, and I was watching fish literally floating up in this thing, and I thought, wow, that is for me. I've got to get one of them because I want to sit in the garden and see me fish. I've got no window or anything. And so I got hold of, I've just looked into, I'm like a kind of, as soon as I get an idea in my head, it's away I go. And I got a fabricator to make me a frame, went on Facebook Marketplace, bought myself a small aquarium tank, fitted it on, sussed out to take the air out to put the water in, and away I went. And then the Sky Pond came really from my viewers going, that's great, I wonder how big you can go. All of a sudden, ping! So another idea came along, and bigger we went. So yeah, I like I said, the reason I put it on is because I couldn't see the fish when I was sitting next to the pond.
And while we're on that, if anybody does have any questions for any of the guests we've got on, whether it's for Dave Senior, Rich, Tony, Andy, or me, then do drop it in the comments. I'm a little bit behind, so I might skip through a few just to try and see where it is at the bottom. But Gaz put a comment there, was even fry can have parasites, Tony.
Yeah.
Just so I could, and then
yeah, they can.
And then Simon Shear says, why quarantine if the seller breeder has done his job correctly? I'm sure if buying specimen scraps would perform, especially if requested this. If buying specimen.
Good point. If you've got a decent supplier there, then you shouldn't really need to be doing any quarantine, or PPEing or prepping the fish so you don't be in your pond. However, you're putting the fish under a lot of stress when you're moving them from A to B, taking them out of water, putting them into a big plastic bag, back of your car, sloshing around, and then into your pond. So there's a lot of stress goes to that fish. And that fish could be quite happy carrying a couple of parasites around with it, in the dealer's pond, which I'm sure they do. There's always parasites on a lot of the fish. And if you put it under stress and all of a sudden these parasites just start taking advantage of a stressed out fish, away you go, and then you start seeing them. So yeah, he's got a good point there. Why do you need to quarantine? If you trust your dealer so much, why do you need to start quarantining them and zapping them with PP before you put them in you've got an already stressed out fish there that you can only suddenly zap him with PP, which is a harsh. That's one of the most harshest chemicals we've got in our armory to zap the fish and stress it out even more just for the sake of putting it in your pond. So for me, I've never quarantined and I've never PP'd. I do spend a lot of time looking at these fish. Like as I said earlier, I don't impulse buy, and I use one dealer. I've never bought from anybody else apart from that one dealer I use at Pencoy, Stoke-on-Trent. Good shop, you pop in every now and again. So yeah, that's basically how I run.
What I would say is though, there's no pond without parasites. It doesn't matter what you've done. There'll never be a pond without parasites. There'll never be a fish without parasites. But what can bring things on is, for instance, and I'm not going to say who or why or what, but I had some fish, and within a couple of days, white spot was developing. Now, the reason those white spot were developing was that they laid a bit dormant, and that fish, from being bought and moved, was stressed. So the stress enabled the white spot to develop, and the fish had gone into a different sort of water, went into my water, and so I had to deal with that white spot. Now, that wasn't the dealer's fault. He wasn't aware it was there, but you can have parasites just through, or bring them on through the fish being stressed.
Yeah. Also, if you scrape the side of your pond, you will invariably find some sort of parasite on the side of your, the wall of your pond, and your biofilm. Sorry.
And then, Rich, what would you say about the, with what you know and what you've got to know so far, do you answer the question as well? Like, I'm just passing it around at you four sort of thing, and I'll answer. Why would you quarantine if the breeder has done the job correctly? I'm sure buying the specimen, I think it means scrapes, would perform specially if requested this. Because you were on about the quarantine stuff, weren't you?
Yeah, as I said before, I don't think any dealer or any reputable dealer would sell you a sick fish or a fish that hadn't been through a quarantine process. But as the other guys have said, there's no particular reason why that fish wouldn't carry something at some point into your pond. It potentially will happen. I'm not an expert, but you know, I've not introduced a fish into my pond, and from last August till what month are we in now? May, April. I put 2 fish in April, and immediately I got fluke. Well, not immediately. Within a couple of weeks, I got fluke. So I assumed it was due to the new fish I put in, but it was probably actually due to temperatures changes and things like that.
Things can happen the other way around, though, Rich, as well. You could have a pond that you've had all them fish in, and I've been in that situation as well, where those fish have got various parasites, but they're hardy to them. They've lived in that pond for ages, and they're hardy to them. You don't even notice that they've got them. You introduce a new fish, those parasites move onto that new fish. That new fish will have a shock. It will say, bloody hell, what environment have I just come into?
Yeah.
And then the dealer gets blamed for it.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't blame the dealer at all. You know, I won't name the dealer, and they were great. You know, really good. And I bought 2 fish. One was quite a large fish, or in my terms, quite a large fish. Probably not by others. And the other one was a tozai. And the tozai seemed to get it. You know, it seemed to suffer from it the worst. And it, you know, from what I've said it previously in these videos, that one morning you'd wake up and it was all, you thought you were fishing it out, and then all of a sudden it'd swim, and then the next day you get home at night and it was fine. Next morning it looked like it was dead. Now they're right as rain, you know. And so yeah, I agree with you totally. I think it was a case of there's always something there. And again, people are probably watching this thinking, what the hell is he talking about? He knows nothing. I probably don't. But I think there's always something there, but there's a tolerance with the fish or a certain size of fish. And,
but to back that up as well, when you've got to know your own pond, there's always one sort of fish where if you've got a parasite or something along the lines, you know which, like the one fish in your pond that sort of reacts, like becomes the first, if that makes sense. So you can sort of act it a little bit quicker. Well, that's what happens in my pond anyway. I've got one fish that soon as something happens, it's always sort of the first to sort of get some. I don't know what it is, just sometimes it happens. And maybe that's what it was with yours, which not saying it is, but that's what happens in my pond. Is every so often, if I have a parasite or something, one fish always does something a bit different. And that's my warning sign that I've got something there. I don't know whether you guys think the same or whether it's different for you guys, but that's what it is in my pond.
Well, what you also got to remember is the fact that fish, particularly if it's a smaller fish, its immune system won't be as hardy as the fish that you've had in the pond previously. And consequently, if there's anything in there, it's going to attack that weaker fish, isn't it?
Yeah. And then that
Yeah,
dragon's
absolutely.
rage, when you scrape the fish, is it any kind of microscope can be used? Well, yes, as long as you can find the parasite to fix it. Is it 40 times, 100 times? And I think there's something else. As long as you can identify the parasites and you can see them moving, if I remember, I think you can see flukes at 40 times, and I think that cost you and a few other things at 100 times. I could be wrong, but I think as long as you microscope and you can see, identify what they are, then any microscope that will identify them will work.
You want to be at least 400, don't you? At least.
Yeah, you do.
Get at least up to 400. Didn't get the cost to you then.
Yeah.
There we go.
And one thing I would say about microscopes is get a decent one, to be honest with you. Some of the ones you see, they're made for sort of like kids. They're not up to it, really. You want something like a Bressa or something like that. And the digital ones, like Tony was on about, Vince has got one. It's absolutely brilliant, that thing is. You don't have to strain your eyes or anything. Or you can get the webcam attachments that you can download the software from the disc that you get with your microscope, and you can actually view it on your computer screen, take video of the scrape or the slide, and even still photos. So it's always worth thinking about those sort of things with microscopes, I think.
And how much did that microscope cost you?
The one I've just bought was less than 100 quid, and it comes with the attachment to put your iPhone. It comes with an adapter to put your iPhone against the lens, and then you can.
And that becomes your big screen, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's quite good. Yeah.
And how much one was that, Andy? Was that about 40, 50 quid, was it? That microscope
This one?
you've got? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 55 quid, I think, off Amazon.
So it doesn't have to...
Is it an Amscope, Andy, that one you've got?
Is it what, sorry?
Is it one of the Amscope ones you've got there?
Yeah, it's a Swift, something or other. It's only a cheap one. It does everything for me. Really good.
Yeah.
I try to keep things simple, stupid. So I just went for a cheapish one, tried it, worked. I see all parasites. Anything I need to see is on there. So
that's all you need.
That's all that matters. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
You don't
spend the cash, do you?
When I say
I'm sure I put a link to it on one of my videos. So I'll stick a link on if anybody wants to get the same one I got. I'll stick a link on somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. I use a Bressa one, which again isn't majorly expensive. I know you can spend quite a lot of money on a microscope, but when I say a decent one, what I meant was not the cheap kiddie type ones that you see advertised for about 20 or 30 quid. They're just sold for kids, really.
I got
as long as you've got your different magnification steps, like your 40, your whatevers, and you can see what you need to see, job's done, isn't it? Or as Andy would say, job's a good one.
Yeah.
You don't need to be spending a fortune on the digital ones attached to computers. There's no need. I mean, if you can afford it, go for it. Yeah, why not? I'd love to have one of these digital ones stick to my computer and get it in 3D and UHD and 4K, but can't afford that, so I go with a cheap one. It does exactly the same job.
Well, I've got a very old Brunel binocular one. To be honest, I wish it wasn't a binocular one now because I can only use one eye.
Excellent. You did this.
Yeah,
that's better.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah.
Was it that one?
And I have to use it without my glasses on as well and focus without my glasses. But normally I'm as blind as a bat without my glasses. But if you focus a microscope to your eye without the glasses, it's fine.
Like I said, Gaz has put there, I found all parasites on a £15 microscope. And then
Yeah, why not?
Carlos,
Definitely.
I got a geographic one attached to my phone for £15. £15 works wonders. So like we said, it doesn't have to cost the earth for a microscope. As long as you can pick up the parasites, identify them, see them moving, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, I didn't think tonight would go on about parasites, but it is that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, if I was to ask you a question on the lighter note, what is everyone's next fish?
Gosh,
everyone after next?
Who are you putting that to?
Anyone, because
I want
we
a
talk about
goshki. I want to
parasites.
replace Gary.
A bit depressing.
Yeah, I want another goshki. I've seen a few goshkis out there. In fact, there was a lovely goshki. Flipping heck, it was about 70 cms. It was gorgeous. The red was just off. But I snoozed and I lost. So next, yeah, I like to
know what?
That mustn't have been cheap for 70 cm.
Yeah.
I've got a goshki, but they just don't grow, do they? They're really
I don't know. I think where I saw that one that was, it wasn't actually for sale, to be honest. I offered him some cash and I offered him half of what it was worth, and he's got a perfect growing part. I think I put it on my videos, didn't I? Did I? That the jumbo video that I made last year.
Yeah, you did.
He had. Oh, and I tell you what, he had a massive yellow lemon Yamabuki. It was a monster. It was. I've never seen a Yamabuki that big. I mean, I got one in my pond now. It's like a tiddler compared to that. It was really ridiculous. In fact, I bumped into the same guy about 2 weeks ago, and he said, "Oh, you'll have to come back." He said they've grown some more, and they were a meter then. Meter. So I'm going to try to get back to him and do a 12-month later video.
Yeah.
The problem with me with my next fish is I've only just bought 1,003 fish.
Yeah, so, what else are you going to get?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm joking. I bought 1,000 fry, which I hope some nice fish will develop from that. But I did buy 3 fish from New Forest Koi recently. I bought 2 kahakus, and I bought a Kin Deutz Matsuba, and that's probably the last fish I will buy for quite some time.
Yeah,
with me,
yeah, I got one from New Forest as well. A Deutz Kin Matsuba, lovely fish. Bought it for Lynn, funny enough.
Probably the last fish I will buy.
I'm being honest. I won't. Unless someone really stands out.
Gaz is here.
Hey, ups, guys. How's it going?
I won't answer the question. Just welcome Gaz on, and I'll try and find some. There we go. Found it.
I just thought I'd jump in. I just so much stuff I've been listening to. When you were saying earlier on about parasites, and when you were saying on about quarantining of fish, if YouTube this last 12 months hasn't taught us all something, it's something it should teach us all. We shouldn't necessarily just quarantine fish for parasites. We need to be quarantining fish if you can and you've got the capabilities.
The bacterial
infections, because that has been the biggest killer in most people's ponds over the last 18 months. So to put it out there that we don't and we shouldn't and you haven't is something that we really should be putting out there that we do and we should and we must to prevent it from getting any worse than what it already is. That's just one of the things I wanted to touch on. But again, like you were saying earlier with the microscopes, you don't need to buy expensive equipment to keep koi at all. Not at all. The £15 National Geographic microscope that I got, because I needed to do a scrape there and then, worked perfectly fine. It's a lot more difficult, don't get me wrong, but it does work and does do the job. And doesn't need to be expensive. It is far easier to find them on a digital screen. It's far simpler to do it, the process. But if you're persistent with it, they are cheap, but you can do it. You can find them. And they'll do just the same job as a 500 quid one. Just
Well,
that's what I was saying. As long as you can find a microscope, like you say, it doesn't matter how much it is. As long as you can find what's moving and then identify what it is, that's all that matters. Whether it, like you say, it's a £15 one, it doesn't matter. As long as you can get it and treat your pond for it, it's
even
happy
if it's
days.
just a one-time use, and then you throw it in the bin, it's worth it for that one-time use. Should you need to treat
your fish, Gaz?
Say again,
Before
mate?
you put them in how do you quarantine your fish before you put them into your pond?
I PP dip mine, but as this is literally something I've just recorded this afternoon, I will be moving my mini pond and starting my pond build in the very, very near future. So that mini pond is going to become my quarantine pond. So if I get one fish of a decent size, there'll always be one or two little fish in there just to keep it cycled. And I'll be dropping that fish in there. If anything happens to the little fish that's already in there, I'll already know that there's an issue on the fish that's come in, or vice versa. I shall take another fish, and like Rick advised on my show the other week, I'll have sacrificial fish that I will put from my main pond into there with them, and making sure that nothing transfers one way back across. I think with what's been going on and going around in a lot of people's ponds this last 18 months, it's just too risky not to do anymore. It's a risky mistake. And we might all be lucky. I've been very, very lucky that the worst I've ever got has just been parasites. And I think that's a blessing, to be fair. But there are people like Mike from Koi Beginnings. I mean, our young lad's pond's been absolutely devastated by a bacterial infection. And one of the people that prompted me really to come on is, all bacterial issues can be cured. No, they can't. If you watch his video, mate, you will go there and see that he had his test done by Paula Reynolds. Paula Reynolds came back and said to him, you've got this bacteria, that bacteria, and that bacteria. This can be treated with that can be treated with that. There is no cure for this one. So they're not all curable. If you get them, it's a blood-borne disease. That's it. Fish is done. And it can spread to your other fish throughout as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's that one fish that's going to have it and no more problems after that. So I just thought I'd just stick my head in, just say hello. And
I've had a fungal problem just lately on one fish. One fish in the pond, fungal treatment, fungal problem all the way around its middle. And I spoke to Ricky about it, and he said, you haven't got something there it can, because it's all the way round his middle, you know, not just on a patch on his body. He said, you haven't got a little hole in something somewhere where it's scraped itself through and, scratched itself, and then this fungus has started. But I done a week's treatment of FMG, and this fungus is, it went from a white, quite long as well. It's only a small fish, but the fungus must have been nearly 3/4 of an inch long all the way around it, going around it. So it looked very strange. Couldn't catch the little bugger. So I treated the whole pond, FMG, over 10 days, I think it was, with 3 doses. And this fungus went from white to grey, and then it started to come off. And funny enough, the fish is fine now.
All the scales okay underneath as well?
Sorry?
Were the scales okay underneath?
They're raised at the moment. They're raised at the moment, but all the fungus has gone. Yeah.
Great. Good do, mate. Salt bath then after that. If it needs it, just give it a salt bath.
I'd do that if I could catch the little blighter.
This is you need your partner to, put a net at one end so you can be at the other, and then hopefully somehow get it in the middle.
Do you know how I deal with that?
Team up.
The way I deal with that, mate, is I put my pond in put my net in my pond regular. Familiarization, and then they're not scared of the net because they expect it to be there.
Yeah. Some of my fish are fine with a net, because I tell you what, I've got a pine tree above my pond. It's a bloody nuisance, this pine tree, because it just sheds pine needles like there's no tomorrow. So every morning I have to put a big pan net across to skim the pond, to skim all these pine needles out of it. So they're pretty used to In fact, they don't mind. They swim around under it. But,
a bit skittish, don't they? So.
Yeah, but this fish, it's only about a 6-inch fish, and my God, but obviously the fungus wasn't bothering it that much, because otherwise it had been feeling a lot more poorly, and you can catch them when they're poorly. But this thing was going bananas all over the place. Couldn't catch it. No way.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
I did try to lighten the mood by asking what everyone's next fish was before we went into.
It's one of them. We're going to be the next topic to come up anyway, because I've seen it, but I saw something else, and then we're going to bring it up because you're coming. It, like you said, guys, it's that hard, and I saw it, then it's gone, and then I found it, and then it's gone, and because it was there.
I agree with what you're saying there about trying to lighten the mood, but I do think that if anything, as YouTubers, we can try put out the message there that if there's something wrong and there's ways of preventing it, it's better for people not to lose thousands of pounds worth of fish.
Yeah, but we've been talking about that for the last hour.
It's an important topic to talk about.
It's always about the learning, and like if you can help somebody and doing this, doing that, and like learn from our own errors and help somebody else, then that's sort of the way to be. Whether it don't matter if people think it's not great, it's all about the learning, and whether it's a little bit harsh in bits and a bit not harsh in others. You've got to sort of know the goods and the bads with keeping any, whether it's dogs, cats, whatever. You've always got to know the good with the bad, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you all learn about fish identification and other toy terms such as sumi and the like? Because I'm useless at it.
Well, I'm going to have to invest in what Gaz is just about to pull out from that drawer, the Koi Bible. I'm going to have to invest in one of them. But I knew exactly what you were going to do because I could see him thinking, I'm about to say it.
Books, internet, Google. And that's how I've done it. But obviously, I tell you where you will find out a lot more about it is if you go to some of the shows and listen to the judges, what they're talking about and what they're saying, and listening to the people that are showing the fish, and they'll tell you tons and tons of information, and you'll get lost for hours in conversation with it, but it's damned interesting, really interesting.
See, the thing is, I will forget what's what. So what's black, what's black, what's red, what's white, about the only one I do know about is Deutz, but I forget. So I have to say, the red bit's looking nice, isn't it? Nice sharp edges around that red bit, and the black is good. It's nice deep black, Isn't that lovely skin with that nice white skin? And everybody else is giving, the sumi is, oh dear, I can't do it. Can't remember it.
Yeah, but
it must be an age thing.
I think, to be fair, though, really, we only adapt all their traditional methods and sayings that they use because it's a traditional thing. But at the end of the day, really, you're right, aren't they? I mean, the yellow, the black, the blue, whatever the colours are, it's just knowing the difference, what they would use from a traditional sense that most people try to stick with because it's the norm, and it's what everybody's always used. I suppose, really, you can call them whatever you want. I suppose it really makes any difference. Everybody knows what you're talking about when you say red, white, and black, but it's one of that. I find it interesting myself, but there's a heck of a lot, and I can't remember half of it at all.
It's one of them, like it's someone through doing these lives and they've reached out to me. They take the hobby to a whole different. It's how far you want to get into the hobby and how much knowledge you want to get from it and how deep you want to go into it. And just the point, while I've brought it up, Dragon Rage, it doesn't matter, you don't have to apologize for all the questions. This is what it's about. Everyone can learn something. And as long as you learn something from the show, it's about me giving back to everyone that allowed me to come back to, wanted me to come back to YouTube, and I'm giving something back. And if I can help someone like yourself by asking, don't think it's a daft question. Every question is relevant. and obviously I'll bring it up, and we can just get it all sorted. And and if I can answer it, or if I can't, I'm sure one of the guests can answer it, or we'll all try and answer it to the best of our knowledge and our own experience, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I tell you what, should we do a 180 question? Should we do a 180 question? Why dragons rage? That's interesting, isn't it?
Why dragons
We'll do a 180 on you there. Chuck one back at you. Why dragons rage?
Drop it in comments.
I reckon it's
Drop
a
it in
gamer
comments.
It's gamer tag.
Is that what it is? You
That's
reckon?
what
Yeah,
it is.
gamer tag.
I know that's my guess. It's not a daft question though, is it? If you don't know the answer, so if you don't
Correct.
know the answer, then it's just a relevant question, isn't it? So.
And like I said, while we're waiting for Dragon's Rage to come back to it, if anybody does have a question that they like to ask one of the panel, whether one of us here, then drop it in. Because I've finally caught up with the comments. If I have missed you, I do apologise. But 1 minute it's there, next minute a load of them jumped. I'm trying to get to the bottom. He's just he's dropped in sending to backstage, and I don't. He's not there at minute, so I don't know.
Pop for the bathroom break, maybe.
Is anybody going to shows?
Guys, you're spot on. That's
yes,
spot on.
There you go, Dragon's Rage.
Yeah,
It's a gaming name. So, like I say, if anybody does it, I'll give you a few minutes. If you do have any more questions, then feel free to add them. There we go. I just wonder, like I said, where did he go? So you dropped.
Why are you disconnected?
2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Right. Well, on that note, stay over there. Stay over there 2 minutes. On that note, because my daughter needs me. Everyone take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. And on that note, guys, keep calm. Keep calm. And until the next one.
Freakers.
See you then.